How's it going, everybody? You have to bear with me here. I am not the greatest at this Zoom stuff, but I figured out probably the best way to share my secrets with you, as you can see on the screen, of things that I've learned over the last 10 years. I'm going to try and come back this into a 10 to 15 minute video, helping you guys debunk the myths and make it simple getting in shape and have a good understanding of everything that I have learned. So let's get right to it. Here's a bit about my background. My name is Mark Broadfoot. I'm with Boss Supplements. I have 10 years personal training experience. I was one of the trainers at Bodies by Design, which is one of the best and largest personal training studios in the Vaughan Woodbridge area. I also have a diploma in fitness and health promotion from Humber College, where they did a fantastic job getting you ready to be a trainer and educating you with sport nutrition, exercise physiology, exercise science, anatomy, physiology, you name it. They taught it to us. So they were really, really well prepared as well. I have a CanFit Pro and an ACSM certification. I've done over 8 years in research on supplements and nutrition, trying to become the best boss owner I can be and help you guys make sure that you get quality products. So here we go. Why is getting in shape so confusing? Let me just move myself a little bit here. So that's because, plain and simple, everyone's different. Every single person is biologically programmed differently. So what might work for me might not work for you, and vice versa. Sales tactics. So a lot of people are selling you the secret and the key to getting in shape, but if you have a good understanding of physiology, you can debunk and understand that some of these things they're preaching just aren't possible. There's contradictions as well too, basically because every single person is created differently. So you're going to hear the same one thing, and then you're going to hear the exact opposite thing, and that's just the way it is. And uneducated influencers. We all know people that are, have all this influence and power, but they might not have read a book or gone to school or researched any of the facts that they've heard, and they're just spitting it out. So those are some of the reasons why it can seem daunting. Let's go to the next one. Okay, but like I said, the physiology does not lie, and understanding basic exercise physiology helps a lot in finding out who's telling the truth and who's not, and why this is working and why that's not working. So I'm going to go over with it quick. Move myself around again. So where do you start? Well, the best way to start is to develop a SMART goal. And it has to be a SMART goal, because without it, it just won't work. So make sure it's specific, it's measurable, it's adjustable in case you fall off track, it's realistic, don't make it too crazy, and it has to be time-oriented as well, so you can get through it start to finish. So here's an example, a SMART goal example that I made. Let's say your goal is fat loss. Well, you want to lose 20 pounds of fat in a time goal that can be adjusted. I will lose 1 to 2 pounds per week, and I will hit my goal in 12 weeks. So that right there is a SMART goal. It is realistic, it's achievable, and it's got all of the qualities needed. So make sure you have one. Next slide. What is the deal with macros? We've all heard about them. Looks like a bunch of math. How can math make you fit? Well, we're going to find out. So how to calculate your macros. Everyone's heard about calculating them. You're going to need to figure out your daily caloric intake needs. Make sure you keep your fat-free mass into consideration, and as well as your somatotype. So let's start with the somatotype. You probably heard of the 3 body types: ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph. So what does this really mean when it comes to getting in shape and calculating your macros? Well, here's a little breakdown of the 3 body types. So the ectomorph is, it has a hard time gaining weight, naturally thin, skinny limbs, and very high carbohydrate tolerance. So we've all seen people that can eat whatever they want and they don't seem to gain weight, and they're just always thin, and that would be the ectomorphs. So mesomorphs are naturally muscular. They have an athletic build, an easy time gaining lean mass, and they're moderate carbohydrate tolerance. So these are people that, they're into sports and they look like an athlete, and they don't seem to have to try as hard to put on muscle. It just kind of happens naturally to them. And then there's endomorphs. So they're naturally thick and broad. They have a difficult time losing fat. They have a slow metabolism. They can, although they can respond to a lower caloric diet with better muscle gains than an ectomorph, and they are very carb sensitive. So if you are an endomorph, you want to make sure that you're on a low to moderate carb diet, taking that into consideration. So here is a basic caloric estimator. You want to take into consideration your activity level and your somatotype. So for example, these 11 to 13 calories for sedentary, 14 to 16 for moderately, and 17 to 19 for very active, you're going to multiply that by your body weight in pounds. So for example, to take the somatottype into account, an ectomorph would have the smallest caloric start, and an endomorph would have the highest based on caloric needs. So we'll go next. So when you're considering body fat, when I do my own, I like to do it based on fat-free mass. So myself, for example, I'm 245 pounds, I'm 9% body fat. Let's say my goal is to be at 4% body fat. I would take 5% off of 245, which works out to be 232.75. And I would multiply that by 15, which is my activity level and my goal. So 15 times 232.75 works out to be 3,491 calories. So that seems like a lot, but I'm a lot of human. So I have a lot of muscle mass on my frame, which means it's costing me a lot of energy to move around and just be awake and moving myself around. It's hard. I have a sore back. I feel it. So I need more calories. So that 3,491 calories is what it costs me to maintain this every single day. So if I want to lose fat, if I subtract 500 calories from that over 7 days, that's 3,500 calories. And 3,500 calories just so happens to equal the amount of fat in 1 pound, calories in 1 pound of fat. So if I wanted to lose 1 pound per week, I would eat around 3,000 calories a day. And that would give me the total 3,500 calorie burn over 1 week, if that makes sense. Another example here I put down there, it's if a 150 pound male that's very active and has an ectomorph wants to lose fat, he would start by consuming 2,850 calories, which is 19 times his body weight. I don't know his body fat. This was just an example that I found online, and but I would make sure that I take that into consideration as well, because that is a little high, but that's his starting point, so that'll help him maintain. So I would subtract 500 calories from that, and he would be eating whatever that is minus 500. I'm not going to try and do that math while I am live recording. So if all that math doesn't seem like it's for you, I don't blame you, and you can download MyFitnessPal. It's an app available for smartphones. I believe it's free. It's super easy to set up. It's going to ask you those questions. You're going to punch in your weight. Make sure you take into consideration your body fat, though. Like if you're around 20, 30% body fat, I've seen a lot of trainers in the past giving like a man that's obese, say he's like 350 pounds, he does not need to eat 6,000 calories a day. So using those formulas will not work out. What I would do with that 350 pound man is subtract his body fat. Let's say it's 30% body fat. I would subtract that towards what his goal is. If it's 15%, I would take 15% off of his 350 pound frame, which is around 45 pounds, and then put that in there, for example. So make sure you take fat-free mass into consideration when doing this, because that's the biggest mistake I've seen. And people that are obese, that are looking to lose weight and having their trainers putting them on a ton of calories and it's not working, it's just frustrating. So take that into account. But MyFitnessPal is fantastic. It shows you a nice little pie chart right here. I'm not sure if you can see the cursor, but that gives you a good breakdown as to where you're at in terms of your macros. And then it's easy to see every day. You can also remember meals you've had previously, so it makes it really fast eventually if it seems slow at the beginning. But anyways, let's go to the next one. I like to title this one, Don't Starve Yourself, because I see it all the time and it is very counterproductive. And I'll explain why. So what is the metabolism anyways? Well, the three main purposes of the metabolism are the conservation of food to energy to run cellular process, the conservation of food and fuel to building blocks for proteins, lipids, nucleic acids, and some carbohydrates, and the elimination of nitrogenous waste. Wow, it does a lot. It does a lot more than people think. And the metabolism is essentially responsible for converting your energy from your food into fuel. So that's important for moving. And conservation of food and fuel to building blocks. So if you're conserving too many, which I'll mention on in a bit, that's a bad thing. It's going to lower your metabolism. So your metabolism is going to adjust based on your energy expenditure and your consumption of food volume. So what happens when you eat? The only way to increase your metabolism is by eating more food, because your body will adjust to that conservation of food and fuel, and by exercising. That's going to bring the metabolism up and rev it up as well too. So I have avoid survival mode in here, and I'll tell you what avoid survival mode is. So our bodies are all physiologically programmed and designed to survive. Unfortunately, there are people in third world countries that they just need this physiological process in order to survive because they don't have access to food all the time. So what happens is your body, if it doesn't have access to food and it's triggered that way by not consuming enough food, it's going to panic, go into survival mode. It's going to strip muscle because it's energy wasting, and it's going to hold on to body fat because it's vitamin and nutrient rich, and it'll help you survive long periods of time without food. And that's how we're programmed. And the only way to tell your body that I'm not dying, I have access to food, is by eating food. And I don't know where that magic number is, but in my 10 years of experience, and you might hear different from other people, but this is my 10 years of experience, I don't like to have anyone drop below 1,250 calories. That's low. I like to keep the food higher. I like to stay away from dropping below 1,500 even, depending unless you're like a competitive bodybuilder and you're only doing it for a couple weeks, because if you do not eat enough, your body goes into survival mode and it does not burn fat efficiently, and is really, really bad because you can ruin this very important physiological response. So make sure you're eating food. Don't go into survival mode. Protect that metabolism. Stay healthy. Burn your calories, and just eat a little bit less than you need to lose fat. Don't go overboard with it. So carb timing, we're going to talk about that. That is one of the most important things, as well as protecting your metabolism, to get in shape, that I've found over the last 10 years. So the reason being is your body's either going to burn fats or carbohydrates. That's what your body primarily uses for fuel. And what you're doing and what you've eaten determines this. So let me give you an example. When you're sleeping, you're fasting, unless you're sleepwalking and eating, which would be impressive, but generally you're fasted. So when you wake up in the morning, you don't have carbohydrates that are biologically available to you from consuming them. So you're going to be burning more calories from fats, and that's a good thing if that's your goal. So we don't want to ruin that by having a fruit smoothie loaded with simple sugars and carbohydrates first thing in the morning, which I see all the time, because your body's, although might not get fat from the fruit, it's certainly going to physiologically shift from fat burning to sugar and carb burning. So we want to avoid that. And the best way to time that is around your workouts, because if you're exercising, your body is going to shuttle all of the carbohydrates into your muscles in the form of glycogen. And if you're not utilizing carbohydrates, they're getting stored as body fat through gluconeogenesis, which is another physiological process. So you only burn 60 to 80 grams of carbohydrates a day from the central nervous system, which is really low. Everybody knows you can get 200-300 grams pretty easy in a plate of pasta or more. So if you're not burning them, they get stored as body fat. So you're burning lots of them in the gym. If you're training, doing resistance training, which is why that's very beneficial, it's because you're depleting all the muscle glycogen that's stored in your body. Every human being can store between 300 or 400 to 800 grams of carbohydrates in their body, depending on their size, right in their muscle cells. So you want to constantly deplete them out of your muscles and then reconsume them to fill them out. But you don't want to spill over, it's called, by consuming too much, where they get stored as body fat through gluconeogenesis. So the best way to time them around your workouts is, if you train in the morning, I like to do just protein and fats before I work out, or nothing at all, and train fasted. And then right after, I'll have a simple carbohydrate meal like rice cakes, protein powder, or chicken and potatoes, depending on what I'm feeling, what I have. And then I'll have a complex carb meal after that. So it's going to shuttle the carbs into the muscle cells that I just depleted, refilling my muscle glycogen. And then my meals towards the end of the day are going to be carb free. Now, it's the opposite if you're training at nighttime, because you want to stay in that fat burn zone when you wake up as long as possible. So what I do in the morning is I'll have protein and fats, like an omelet with some avocado, lots of egg whites. And then I'll have another protein and fat meal, like a steak and asparagus, or chicken with some walnuts or almonds and some veggies. And then I'll have a complex carb meal, and then I'll drink some carbs during my workout, have some simple carbs after my workout, and the rice cakes or white potato and chicken and protein powder. And then I'll have another carb-free meal at nighttime. And that keeps your body working with you. That keeps you burning fat as long as possible. It keeps you shuttling carbs into your cells through with insulin, and it keeps you from storing those extra carbs as body fat. So timing is very important here. So what are plateaus, and why are they so important? I have this fancy photo of this construction worker here, because I like to use this as an example. So I usually ask people, what do they do for work? And most people will say, you know, I'm in sales, or I'm administrative, or I'm a teacher, or something like that. That's not super, super active. So it's a great example. So if I asked you what you did, you told me whatever you did, I would say, what if you got a job laying brick tomorrow? You'd be pretty sore, you know, and you would, because you're not used to lifting bricks and moving them around. You're burning more calories. So you would build some muscle tissue from that, because your body would demand that you have more muscle to do the work. You would be burning more fat because your caloric expenditure is higher, and you would get in better shape, but only for a period of time, because after 6 to 8 weeks, you might not be sore anymore, because you've adjusted to that workload, and you've plateaued. See where I'm going with this? You plateaued. So your body doesn't need to change anymore. So that goes to the adaptation model, where it's important to achieve adaptation and avoid. So I'll explain that further in the next slide. So progressive overload, what the heck is it? I don't know if you've heard about it. I've heard about it, but I've studied it. So I'll just go straight into it. So the progressive overload principle states that in order for a muscle to grow, strength to be gained, performance to increase, or for any similar improvement to occur, the body must be forced to adapt to a tension that is above and beyond what it has previously experienced. So progressive overload, as a bricklayer, you're going to be challenged, and you're going to have to adapt to that, and you're going to get in better shape doing it. But eventually you will have adapted, and you won't go any further. See where I'm going? So you have to train insane or remain the same. You have to be challenged. Your body has to be taxed. You have to be pushing yourself. Or once you've adapted to that training program and you've hit a plateau, you need to reevaluate and hit another program, because doing the same program for 6 to 8 weeks is not going to be helpful, because usually you adapt within 3 to 4 in my experience. Sometimes it could be a little longer if it's really challenging, but my experience, I like to switch things up every 4 weeks or so, give or take 2. Next. So I've plateaued. Now what? Review your SMART goal. You can just make another SMART goal. If you already hit your percentage of fat loss, throw another one down. Review your diet and workout plan and see where you can make changes. And I've thrown this deck of cards up here, or the ace of spades, because I like to think about getting in shape as leaving cards in the deck to play. So a card play, meaning reducing a cheat meal, training a little harder, doing a little more cardio. You know what I mean? See where I'm going with this? So essentially, if you are starting out and you're eating junk food in your diet, you're not giving it your all in cardio, you're dogging it, you're not training very hard, or you're not doing a program that's challenging you, you know what you can do. You know what cards you have. You know you can work a little harder, card. That's it. All right? You can add some cardio, that's a card, and see how much progress you can get from that card before you play another one. I'm going to cut pop out of my diet. Boom, card. You know, I'm going to stop eating fast food. Boom, card. So play your cards slowly and in the right direction. Always have another card on deck to play to see where you can go and improve. And it's really not that hard. Thinking everybody I've talked to and asked them, what can you change to get in shape a little bit better? And then they think, and it's easy. Oh, you know what? I've been going out to eat, you know, on lunches, and we don't really make the best healthy choices. Boom, perfect. Pack a lunch. You're good to go. Now, the reason you don't want to lay all your cards out on the deck is because let's say you have a lot of progress to go and you haven't been very clean and healthy and training very hard. And then you start training 7 days a week. You start eating salads every single day at low calorie, and you're doing cardio every single day, twice a day. What happens when you adapt to that? What happens when you've mastered the art of bricklaying and you have another 30 pounds to lose? You plateau, you get discouraged, you go back, and because you say screw it, and you gain everything you have back, and you're even more discouraged. And this happens so much. So plateaus kill progress, and they also kill dreams of getting in shape. And at one point, I thought it was impossible for me to get a six-pack. I just thought there's just no way that I can do it. Maybe it's my genetics or my metabolism. I just blamed it on whatever and was like, I don't know what it is, until I learned all of this that I just shared with you, and been like, boom, just one card at a time, and eventually you get shredded. So if you need help with figuring out what cards to play, let me know, and I can take a look right away and be like, you know what, that Greek yogurt, that you've been having, that in my opinion, the dairy industry has paid billions of dollars to market it towards fitness people to say how healthy it is and how much protein there is in it. Well, the dairy and the simple sugars in it are killing your fat loss because you're physiologically burning the sugars and dairy in it, and you're not burning fat. So you eliminate that and you get, that's a carb. So you know what I mean? So like I can take a look at things really simple and be like, all right, you got some cards to play here. Let's play these. And I bet you'll lose 5 or 6 pounds in the first couple weeks. And they come back to me and they're like, holy crap, I lost exactly what you said I did. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because this is the way, you know, you figure things out as you go. So I'm here to help you guys. Let's go to the next one. Yeah. So we're at the last slide. I want to leave my information up here. I want to help as many people as I can because it makes me feel good. So please contact me for 100% free guidance. I literally just want to give back to those who have supported me so much with Boss. You can send a DM to us on Instagram, a Facebook message. It all goes to my personal cell phone, so I'll see them all. And you can also text our store phone number, which is right up here. And again, all I want to do is share what I've learned because, you know, it's really simple for me and it's going to help you get the results that you want. So help me help you. Let's get in shape together and do this and make 2020 the best year for fitness goals ever. I love you guys. Thank you so much for your support and thanks for watching. Again, if you need anything, you've got my info.